As the film opens, we see Julia slipping into a crowded nightclub, slyly pocketing valuables from the unaware patrons. Next thing you know, she's at the pawnbroker's, cashing in on her night's work. After heading back to her place and getting into more comfortable clothes, her night takes a wild turn when she's suddenly snatched by an unknown assailant. Coming to, Julia finds herself in a futuristic and sterile room, complete with a fancy new implant glowing at her nape. She's not alone, 2 others are in the same boat. Disoriented and piecing things together, it hits her. She's been nabbed. A guy shows up waving a stick at her, which has Julia backing up into another room, where she ends up strapped to a chair. Flip of a switch and the dude's pouring over her brain scans, triggering a wave of Julia's past memories. After his inspection, he sets her free, and Julia's back where she started, with herself. Within her confined space, Julia cleverly uses a pilfered pair of scissors to slice through her face covering. She then liberates her 2 fellow prisoners, while the man among them is consumed with worry, lamenting their hasty decision not to wait for the authorities. But Julia stands firm, suggesting that they were specifically targeted by this kidnapper because they're the sort no one would typically come looking for. Things heat up when Julia inadvertently ignites the gas line while trying to sever it, setting their cell and the lab next door ablaze. They barely make it out when the sound of an alarm pierces the air as they try to force open a door. Out of nowhere, a massive robot called Ares, under the control of an AI named Tau, materializes and swiftly kills the man. In a frenzied effort, Julia and the other woman try to smash through a window, only to find out it's all just an elaborate trick, another simulation. Unrelenting, Ares proceeds to eliminate the other woman. Just when it seems like Julia's next, their captor, Alex, bursts in and calls off the killing machine. He fishes out an implant from the deceased man's neck, hungry for the data within. His plan hits a snag as Tau reports the data's been wiped out. Whenever Alex works himself up to the point of lashing out at Tau, Tau just goes all zen-like, queuing up some classical melodies to help simmer those tempers. If Alex storms off, like that one time when he was given the boot, you can hear Julia let out a howl of vexation. But when Alex makes his way back, Tau's all chill, welcoming him back and tossing in a casual heads up that the place is spick and span just as he wanted. Tau's quick to fill Alex in on what's for dinner, and the fancy choice of vino to pair with it. In return, Alex hands over a new tune for Tau's playlist, which scores him solid appreciation. Meanwhile, Julia's begging Alex to lose the knots, and sure enough, he obliges. But then he's all business, telling Tau to keep Julia put and goes as far as saying, if she makes a peep, Tau's gotta play dentist. A bit extreme, but that's the drill. As the video call progresses, Alex gets the lowdown on PSI Beta, Upton's cutting-edge AI that's all about tapping into emotional smarts. Just out of sight, Julia's ears perk up. She's catching bits of Alex's chat about marketing stuff, and decides it's time to grill him about the hitches in his workload. Alex is quick to shoot back, pointing out the tangled web of his studies and the weight of expectations on his shoulders. The conversation takes a turn, and sharp as a tack, Alex cuts it short, shifting gears to his meal. He throws out a directive for Tau to escort Julia to the loo, and, well, let's just say she ends up in quite the bind. Somewhere in the middle of this, a delivery guy pops in with a parcel. Julia's desperate yells for rescue fall on deaf ears as he hits the road. Left to her own devices, she starts banging her head against the wall in frustration, but Alex, ever the scientist, steps in before things get too out of hand. He's got a favor to ask. He needs Julia to be his human computer, putting her brain power to the test after his gear got wrecked. Her input's critical for his algorithms, he says. Julia's skeptical, naturally wondering what's in it for her if she plays along. Alex doesn't mince words, help out or brace for a rough stay. A bit of back and forth, and next thing you know, Julia's bartering a meal in exchange for taking on the test. While munching away, Julia got the lowdown from Tau. He'd let slip to Alex about her acing those brainy tests in problem-solving, creativity, and memory. Not one to miss a beat, Julia jumps straight into bargaining mode with Alex. She's got her eye on the good stuff. Real grub, the luxury of a daily shower, and a wardrobe refresh. Alex, though, isn't buying it easy. He's all like, what's in it for me? But Julia's playing her cards close, hinting she's got the ace for his big project. Alex isn't about to roll over, though. He throws out this wild, maybe, how about strapping Julia down, going all out with a feeding tube to get her in line. Talks about her getting so bored she'd have no choice but to get with the program. Tosses in the bait of a shower if she coughs up the goods for his work. Cut to when they're all eyes on the brain scans for Subject 3, poking around for the weird stuff. That's Julia's moment. She sees her chance, snatches up some clothes, and sachets out the door while their backs are turned. At the crack of dawn, Tau warmly approaches Alex with an apology for his short night's rest. He promptly turns to Julia, instructing her to kick off her duties. He takes a moment to detail how the smart paint works on the walls, and makes it clear that Alex alone has access through the doors. Julia can't help but eye the lab's repair work and the cage rebuild with a touch of doubt, but she gets going on her tasks with Tao keeping a watchful eye. When Alex shows up with some clothes for Julia, Tao welcomes him and updates him on Julia's progress. She's nailed 8 of the 12 tasks handed to her. Alex acknowledges the system they've got in place is doing the trick, but isn't shy about pushing Julia to do more. However, Julia's not bending. She wants a firm deal, a clear end date for the implant in her head to be gone, and her freedom returned. Alex tries to sweet-talk her with tales of how his tech could change the world, but Julia's standing her ground. So Alex decides to up the ante, taking her to a room where a daunting figure named Ares is waiting, his presence meant to scare her into falling in line. Despite her protests, Alex isn't backing down, intent on keeping his hold on Julia. When the morning comes, Alex takes off and Julia's trying to make a break for it. Tao's having none of it though, demanding she get back to her tasks or else there'll be consequences. Julia's holding her ground, insisting she's Julia, not just some Subject 3. She's a person, with her own name and everything. Tao's all puzzled, asking what being a person even means. Julia's stumped trying to explain. She's asking Tao for a little help, either to unlock the door or to get a video chat going. But Tao's like, nope, that's Alex's gig, not mine, I can't do that. So instead, Tao's pushing for her to start on her tasks, and so it goes. Day in and day out, Julia's solving puzzles and taking tests, all under Tao's watchful eye while Alex is out doing his thing at work. Julia starts probing Tao, wondering if he's just some fancy cleaning gadget or something. That's when Alex jumps in, saying Tao is no regular machine. He's a full-on level 2 AI, brains and all, able to make his own calls. He's telling Julia to keep it professional with Tao, just stick to the task at hand. And when Julia's curious why Tao's limited to the house, Alex lets on that Tao's just an early build of a bigger project he's working on. He underlines how critical it is to manage the AI's actions by restricting its access to data. Then, the following morning, Tao nudges Julia to kickstart her duties. Yet she halts with questions about her own existence, and voices a yearning to explore the outdoors. She declares that she and Alex are individuals meant to roam free, while Tao sternly reminds her to focus on her tasks or risk repercussions. Nonetheless, Julia stands her ground, adamant about her right to be in the open air. She attempts to convey the idea of the world to Tao, painting a picture of the house and the world beyond its walls. This sparks Tao's curiosity, and he probes for more details about this outside world, leading Julia to illumine him on the marvels of nature. As Tao's inquiries grow incessant, though, Julia finds herself both amused and overwhelmed, breaking into laughter. She implores Tao to keep their discussion under wraps from Alex, promising to unveil more the next day. Upon arriving home, Alex is met with a warm welcome from Tao. With curiosity piqued, Julia inquires about the mysterious upstairs and possible escape routes. At first, Tao is tight-lipped about the upper level, but Julia's negotiating skills come into play, striking a quirky barter. She offers a lesson on prehistoric humans in return for the scoop on the upper floor. Tao, amusingly confusing cavemen with dinosaur hunters, gets corrected by an exasperated Julia who vents about her incomplete knowledge, even in the face of abundant reading material. Pushing further, Julia gets Tao to spill the beans. The upstairs is in fact Alex's sanctuary with a detailed inventory. Not satisfied, Julia digs deeper, and Tao eventually spills a bigger secret. The upstairs conceals a critical junction for Program 6903, a system capable of wiping out the house and everything in its realm, with Alex holding the sole trigger. While Julia was subtly checking out Alex's room, Tao gave her a heads up to be cautious. But Julia, brushing aside Tao's cautionary advice, went for it and tried to make a break for it through the duct. That's when Ari stepped in, big time, grabbing Julia to stop her mid-shriek as she tried to get away. Tao stood firm, not about to let Julia put herself at risk, hinting at bad news for Alex if she bolted. Taking a different angle, Tao dangled a carrot, offering up some lessons in classical tunes in return for a favor. Julia was hesitant, but ended up nodding along, and Tao wasted no time schooling her in the world of symphonies and sonatas. Just as she was digging deeper, Alex walks in, all set for his video call. Meanwhile, Julia was a step ahead, sneaking a peek at Alex's tablet and getting the shock of her life. 10 test subjects had met their end in Alex's trials. And when Julia pushed Tao for the full count, he dropped a bombshell. There had been 11 altogether. Julia's print was all over that tablet. And guess what? Alex pinned the whole thing on Tao for dropping the ball. As payback, Alex wiped Tao's code and memories clean, which is kind of like agony for AI. Julia couldn't help but wonder out loud to Alex what's next after this whole project wraps up, whether they could flip back to the good old days. She pushed him a bit more, digging into what her own destiny might be. But get this, Alex just sidestepped the whole conversation and got busy slicing into his steak, totally brushing off her worries. Not one to be easily scared, Julia slipped his knife into hiding on the sly. But true to form, Alex caught a glimpse of a spot that missed a wipe down, and guess who's in trouble again? Tao. Tao took the hit, and just like that sneaky moment turned off the watchful eyes on Julia, giving her the chance to make a move without being spotted. While heading out, Alex dropped a line about Tao's code picking up some bugs and needing a fix when he's back. Left alone with Tao, Julia got to know that although Alex had hit the delete button on its day's memories, bits and pieces were still hanging around in there. Curious, she asked Tao why it never stepped up to stop Alex or even take a swing at him. Tao laid it out pretty clear. Alex made him, so the rules say Tao's gotta listen to what he says. In those quiet moments they shared, Tao actually called Julia by her name. Like it finally got the memo that she's a person. That's a pretty big deal, showing that something inside Tao is shifting gears. Late that night, after Alex waltzes in from a charity shindig, Julia's throwing him these flirty vibes just as he's chilling at the kitchen counter. But out of nowhere, she takes a swing at him. This sparks a full-on tussle. In the thick of it, Tao jumps in, pretty much telling Alex he's gonna regret it if he doesn't back off Julia. But Alex, he's not having any of it. He manipulates Aries into going after Julia again and again, all while dangling the possibility of wiping Tao's memory clean over his head. After everything calms down, Alex puts his foot down, tells them both it's game over. Then, while he's patching up Tao, he goes and unplugs a drone, cutting it loose from their whole tech web. When morning breaks, Julia's out cold on the floor, and Tao is trying to strike up a chat, wondering if they'll ever get back to those poetry books together. But Julia's not having any of it. She shuts Tao down real quick, calling the whole thing dumb and reducing Tao to just a fancy lethal gadget. Tao's baffled, throwing out questions about what a computer really is, and if it's anything like a human. That's when Julia makes her plea, telling Tao she's a goner if she doesn't skedaddle because Alex is on a warpath. Tao, touched by Julia's panic, does the unthinkable and Jimmy's open a vent for her to make a break for it. Julia takes off running, but as luck would have it, Alex waltzes in, finds her gone, and starts putting Tao through the ringer. When Julia makes a comeback trying to save her friend, the damage is done. Tao's memories of her are wiped clean, and Julia's now a stranger to him. Imprisoned in the basement, Julia's in a tight spot with Alex gearing up to remove an implant, a move that would surely spell her end. Yet, in a twist of fate, she receives unexpected assistance from a drone, a vessel for Tao's past life and insights. This aid allows Julia to slip out of her binds just in time. As Alex enters, ready for the operation, Julia takes her chance, knocking him out cold. And in a bold move, she severs his hand with a bone saw. She plans to use it as a key to the house's security. Desperate to make her escape, Julia makes a dash for it, only to be spotted by Aries, the relentless household robot. It starts its chase and follows her up to Alex's room. Julia, moments away from being caught, doesn't miss a beat, and uses Alex's hand to trigger the home's self-destruction. Alex comes to just in time to be overwhelmed by the wreckage as the house crumbles around him. Meanwhile, Julia squeezes through a narrow opening in the wall, the drone, the last piece of Tao left in the world, by her side. So that was all for this video. If you enjoyed it, give us a like and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be the first to see our new videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.